Hello mates, welcome to the West 6 Mixology podcast. I'm Scotty Clark and our show today is about the ultimate cold weather companion, a steaming mug of bourbon spiked comfort that's been warming souls and soothing throats for over 2 centuries. Picture this, it's a freezing November night, you're nursing what feels like the start of a cold, and someone hands you a steaming mug of whiskey, honey, lemon and hot water. You take a sip. The warmth spreads through your chest. The bourbon's vanilla notes dance with floral honey. Citrus cuts through the sweetness. And for a moment, you can't quite tell if you're drinking medicine or pure comfort in a glass. That right there is the beautiful ambiguity of the Hot Toddy, a drink that's been walking the line between pharmacy and pleasure for well over 2 centuries. The Hot Toddy has a name origin story that's delightfully messy. One persistent legend credits Dr. Robert Bentley Todd, an Irish physician in London who prescribed brandy, cinnamon, sugar, and hot water to his patients. Sounds plausible, right? Except the word toddy shows up in written English before the good doctor even started his medical practice. Awkward. The more credible trail leads us to colonial India, where British officers and merchants encountered a beverage called tāḍī in Hindi, made from fermented palm sap. These colonials, ever eager to make things their own, borrowed the word and slapped it onto their own concoctions of spirits, hot water, and sweeteners. By the middle of the 18th century, toddy had fully entered British English, referring to any hot mixed drink with booze. There's a third theory involving Todd's Well, a water source in Edinburgh, but that's almost certainly what linguists call folk etymology. People trying to explain a word's origin with a story that sounds good, but has no historical basis. What we know for certain is that by the late 1700s, hot toddies were everywhere in Britain and America. They lived in that fascinating space where medicine and recreation overlapped. Remember, this was an era when doctors genuinely prescribed alcohol for ailments, when pharmaceutical options were limited, and when a hot drink might actually be safer than questionable water sources. The toddy represented something democratically brilliant. Punch culture required ceremony, equipment, and groups of people. But a toddy? One person, one mug, a few simple ingredients, and you had warmth and comfort on demand. It was punch's practical, accessible cousin. Originally, people made toddies with whatever spirit was available. Scotch in Scotland, Irish whiskey in Ireland, rum in the Caribbean colonies, brandy among wealthy Englishmen. The recipe was more template than rigid formula. Some versions included butter, creating that buttered rum tradition. Others used tea instead of plain water. Spicing ranged from none at all to elaborate combinations. Then Prohibition nearly killed the tradition in America. Without quality spirits, the toddy lost its appeal. It became something your grandmother made when you were feeling under the weather, not something you'd order at a bar. For decades, it survived more as folk remedy than cocktail. But here's where the craft cocktail revival gets interesting. Modern bartenders rediscovered the toddy and realized something crucial. Simplicity isn't the same as boring. When you use quality bourbon, real honey, fresh lemon, and actually pay attention to technique, the toddy transforms into something genuinely compelling. Death & Co. in New York, Cannon in Seattle, bars across the country started featuring seasonal toddy menus with house variations. The humble cold remedy was suddenly worthy of serious bartending attention again. Now, let's talk about why bourbon works so beautifully here. You can absolutely make toddies with Scotch or rye or Irish whiskey, and people do. But bourbon brings something special to the equation. That corn-forward sweetness, those vanilla and caramel notes from American oak aging, they harmonize with honey in a way that creates this seamless, comforting flavor profile. Scotch can be smoky and assertive. Rye brings more spice and bite. But bourbon? Bourbon plays well with others. It's got enough character to stand up as the base spirit, but it's not fighting the other ingredients for dominance. You want something in the 80 to 100 proof range. Higher than that, and the heat can overwhelm the delicate balance, especially when temperature amplifies alcohol's intensity. More after our break.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners, Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
Here's the thing about honey that most people don't consider. It's not just a sweetener. Honey brings viscosity, floral aromatics, perceived medicinal benefit, and complexity that white sugar simply cannot match. Local raw honey is ideal. Wildflower honey offers beautiful complexity. Clover honey is mild and accessible. Those ultra-filtered commercial squeeze bottles, they lack the flavor depth you want here. When honey dissolves in hot water and mingles with bourbon's oils, it creates this silky mouthfeel, an emulsification that makes the drink feel almost luxurious. Plus, there's that psychological component. Humans have been using honey medicinally for thousands of years. When you're under the weather, honey in your toddy genuinely feels healing, whether or not the science fully backs that up. Fresh lemon juice is absolutely non-negotiable. Bottled lemon juice will create a flat, chemical-tasting disaster. Fresh lemon provides bright citric acid that balances the honey's sweetness, aromatics from the oils in the peel, and that essential tartness that prevents the drink from being cloying. Meyer lemons create a sweeter, more floral toddy. Standard Eureka or Lisbon lemons give you that classic profile. The hot water is your dilution and your delivery system for heat. This is where things get technical. You want water between 170 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling water, that full 212 degrees, volatilizes too much alcohol and can extract bitter notes. Water that's too cool doesn't release aromatics properly and won't dissolve the honey efficiently. Think about it this way. You're aiming for a final drinking temperature around 140 to 150 degrees. Warm enough to be genuinely comforting, cool enough to actually sip without burning yourself. The drink will cool as you drink it, which is fine. That's part of the experience. Making a proper hot toddy requires more attention than you might think for such a simple drink. First, and this is crucial, pre-warm your glass. Pour hot water into your mug, let it sit while you prepare everything else, then dump it out. Cold glass will instantly drop your drink temperature by 15 or 20 degrees. Nobody wants a lukewarm toddy. Add your honey to the warmed, empty glass. 1 tablespoon is standard, though you can adjust to taste. The warm glass helps the honey begin liquefying, which is important because honey integration is the make or break technical point. Honey that pools at the bottom creates an unbalanced drink where the first sips are weak and the last ones are syrupy sweet. Pour your 2 ounces of bourbon directly over the honey. The alcohol is an excellent solvent and begins dissolving the honey immediately. Then add your ½ ounce of fresh lemon juice. You can squeeze it directly into the glass through your fingers to catch seeds. Now comes the hot water. 4 to 6 ounces, depending on how strong you like it. Pour in a smooth, steady stream. The hot water creates convection currents that help mix everything together naturally, but you still need to stir. 3 or 4 gentle revolutions with a bar spoon, or, better yet, a cinnamon stick that'll become part of your garnish. Make sure that honey is fully dissolved. Check the bottom of the glass. Any pooling? Keep stirring. For garnish, take a lemon wheel, Stud it with 2 or 3 whole cloves and float it on the surface. The clove-studded lemon is classic presentation, and as the drink sits, those aromatics gently infuse. The cinnamon stick stays in as both stirrer and aromatic element. Some people add a star anise for visual interest, maybe a grating of fresh nutmeg on top. The key is making and serving immediately. Hot toddies don't wait. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you're losing temperature and aromatics. This is a drink you build with intention and consume with attention. More after our break.
Building a new product? Tmez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at tmez.ai.
Where bartenders get creative is in playing with that basic template. Some use hot black tea instead of plain water. Earl Grey brings bergamot notes that complement bourbon beautifully. Others pre-batch a honey-lemon mixture at a 2-to-1 ratio for faster service during busy winter nights. High-end craft bars might add a small pat of spice butter on top, borrowing from the buttered rum tradition. I've seen versions with a smoke rinse on the glass for that campfire character, or house-made spice blends with cardamom and allspice. Regional variations tell their own stories. The Irish, Hot Irish, traditionally uses Irish whiskey and sometimes includes a splash of strong black tea. Scottish versions often feature Scotch and might include a sugar cube soaked in whiskey and set aflame before adding to the drink. In Appalachia, you'll find toddies made with local honey and apple cider instead of plain water. If you can't find good honey, a rich Demerara syrup works, though you lose some of that floral character. Can't handle bourbon? Try a smooth Irish whiskey, or even a gold rum. The template is forgiving, as long as you maintain the fundamental balance of spirit, sweetener, citrus, heat, and spice. When you lift that steaming mug to your face, the aromatics hit you first. Steam carrying bourbon's vanilla and oak, honey's floral sweetness, lemon's brightness, cinnamon's warm spice, cloves' aromatic intensity. It's an integrated sensory experience where smell and taste work together. The first sip is warming, obviously, but it's the layered complexity that surprises people. You get bourbon's caramel and corn sweetness immediately, then honey's rounder, more floral sweetness, then lemon's tartness cutting through on the mid-palate. The finish is long and warming, faintly medicinal in the most comforting way possible. The texture is silky from honey's emulsification, thinner than a cocktail, but more substantial than tea. As the drink cools slightly, flavors evolve. The bourbon becomes more prominent. The spices have had time to infuse more deeply. That clove-studded lemon has released more oils. Every sip is slightly different from the last, which keeps the experience engaging. The hot toddy isn't a cocktail that demands your full attention like a perfectly balanced Negroni, but it rewards attention if you give it. It's contemplative in the best sense. This is a drink for reading by the fire, for quiet conversation, for the end of a long day when you need warmth and comfort more than excitement. Does it actually help when you're sick? Here's the honest answer. The alcohol might provide some symptom relief and help you sleep, but it's not curing anything. The steam helps with congestion. The hydration is beneficial. The honey has some antimicrobial properties, though heat reduces them. Mostly, it just makes you feel cared for, which shouldn't be underestimated. What makes the hot toddy matter, 2.5 centuries after it entered the English language, is its fundamental humanity. This is a drink about comfort, about taking a few simple, quality ingredients and transforming them into something greater than their parts. It's about the ritual of making something warm when the world feels cold. It's about that intersection of pleasure and care, where something can taste wonderful and also make you feel better. In a cocktail culture that often prizes complexity and innovation, the toddy reminds us that simplicity, executed with attention and quality ingredients, has its own profound appeal. It's a drink that connects us to centuries of people who wanted exactly what we want: warmth, comfort, a moment of peace in a glass. Make one tonight. Your soul will thank you, even if your cold doesn't actually care. All right, thank you for joining us for the West 6 podcast. Drink responsibly, and if you had a good time, press follow and rate our show 5 stars. This is Scotty signing off. May your troubles be lighter than your cocktails.
Grab news. Thomas.